a style no one can touch.
Oh, he's so graceful.
A reputation no one can top.
He's so courageous.
And a wild side no one can tame.
Now I'm working.
Will Smith.
Nice head.
Kevin Kline is Artemis Gordon. Kenneth Branagh and Selma Hayek. From the director of Men in Black, Wild Wild West. Available now on DVD and video cassette.
So basically the plot of this is that Will Smith plays Jim West and Kevin Kline is Arthur Gordon, Artemis Gordon. They are two U.S. Secret Service agents working in the West. They have to protect the President Ulysses S. Grant, played also by Kevin Kline, and the United States from all manners of dangerous threats during the American Old West, including a bad guy played by Kenneth Branagh. You also have Salma Hayek, Ted Levine, and Emmett Walsh, and yeah, talk about a movie that was trying to literally rip off everything that Will Smith and Barry Sonnenfeld did with Men in Black, because holy mother of God, they did not even hide the fact that they were trying to create their own Men in Black with this. But yeah, Wild Wild West, the TV series from the 1960s, it was never anything like this. And a movie that was so bad that Will Smith literally had to go to the person that played Jim West to apologize to him for making this movie. That's how you know this was a bad move on Will Smith's part. It was a film that literally kind of slowed down Will Smith's growing star power. I mean, we've talked about it before. He turned down The Matrix to be in this movie. That should tell you everything you need to know there, but you could just look at this movie and just see, like I said, they were trying to rip off Men in Black on so many levels, but Men in Black works because it's based off the source material. They had a good script. They had good chemistry between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Great direction by Barry Sonnenfeld. Everything that happened in that movie could make sense in that universe. Nothing in this universe makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, this whole movie is unbelievably bad, and I went to go see this on the big screen when I was little. I liked it when I was little, but then again, I was only 10 years old when it came out, so I'll pretty much like anything if you put it on the big screen. I go to a movie theater once every week, but no, when you watch this again many years later, you start to realize that, yeah, this is not a good movie. And like I said, it's literally taking from all the things that Men in Black did. We gotta have Will Smith in there. We gotta have Barry Sonnenfeld, the director. We've gotta have the soundtrack, which is it's probably the more successful thing that came from this movie than the movie we actually did. That soundtrack is pretty damn good, but unfortunately, it's attached to this film here. And hey, you know what? John Peters finally got his wish. He finally got to have his big mechanical spider, and unfortunately, it's in Wild Wild West. Oh my God. Was it really worth it, dude? You really wanted this in a Superman movie that much that you had to put this in Wild Wild West. Man, this is a terrible film. This is a horrible, horrible movie. Is there anything about this movie that's worth it? A couple things. I mean, Kevin Kline, he's doing the best he can in here. I don't think he should have gotten nominated for the Razzie, but at least he's trying. At least he's trying to say, "Hey, my name's attached to this. I'm gonna put some effort into this." But Kenneth Branagh, I'll give him credit. He's trying to do something that's completely outside of his norm, even though it didn't really work out in the end. He was still not a very good villain. But yeah, other than that, though, there's really not much more I can add to this movie that hasn't already been said. This is not a good film by any means necessary. This is an insult to the television series. Even if you've never seen the TV series, this is an insult to just movies in general. There was a great TV adaptation by Warner Brothers that came out in the mid-90s that was based off of a Western. That was Maverick, the Richard Donner film with Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. That was a much better representation of that show and how to make that into a modern setting and actually make it work. Here, no, this is clearly peak late 1990s where you gotta throw all these big special effects, and we just gotta have our own Men in Black. I mean, we gotta have our own Men in Black at Warner Brothers, and yeah, that did not work out so well for them. And really, there's not much more I can really add to this film. This is a terrible, terrible movie. Great soundtrack. Kevin Kline's at least trying. That's pretty much all you can say about Wild Wild West. So, how about we get to a much better movie? Probably easily the best overall movie that came out this weekend. And as, of course, South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
We were four friends.
Dude, is it Cartman's mom? Oh, very funny. It is Cartman's his mom.
But when the forces of darkness threatened their world, Satan!
Okay.
They had to embark on the greatest adventure of their lives.
Where do they come up with this stuff?
On June 30th, it's not just another day in the park. South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
We accidentally replaced your heart with a baked potato. You have about 3 seconds to live.
Rated R starts June 30th. Oh.
I mean, for a South Park movie to come literally less than 2 years after the show premiered, I guess there was some kind of deal at Paramount when they made at Comedy Central when they made the show that they had to make a movie at Paramount. I don't know if that's entirely true or not, but what is surprising is as South Park did kind of take off right away. I mean, they tried to make Trey Parker and Matt Stone into movie stars within the year after the show came out, the previous year with Basketball, and then later on with Orgasmo, which went on to become cult hits. But so basically, in this film, you have a story where you have the South Park crew. They're going to sneak into an R-rated film starring Terrence and Phillip, after which they begin swearing. The mothers urge the United States to declare war on Canada for allegedly corrupting their children. And Stan, Kyle, and Cartman take it upon themselves to save Terrence and Phillip from being executed, while Kenny, who dies in the movie, no surprise, tries to prevent a prophecy involving Satan and Saddam Hussein's intent to conquer the world. It was pretty clear that this movie was kind of preparing itself for the inevitable backlash this movie was going to get. The film tackles a lot of things that... It tackles what South Park usually does best. They tackle topical issues like censorship, bad parroting. They also parody and satirize stuff like the Disney Renaissance, the animated films that were coming out there, and musicals such as Les Miserables, and controversy surrounding the series themselves. And there was a lot of debate between the MPAA and Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who went on to go into numerous problems with the production process, including a title change that would have been called South Park All Hell Breaks Loose, but they couldn't call it that. And the film received an R rating just 2 weeks before it was supposed to come out. And there's a lot of F-bombs in this movie. There's so many F-bombs in this film. Supposedly what they did, apparently one of the things that they had to deal with was the fact that apparently 400 F-bombs get you an NC-17 rating. So what they decided to do, they basically had 399 F-words in this movie. It's still the most F-bombs that are dropped in any animated film, or any film in general, I think. But like 399 F-bombs to avoid an R rating. One off from getting an R rating. That takes a lot of balls to do. And you know what? The movie pays off big time in the end, because, man, this movie's friggin' amazing. This is everything we've come to expect from South Park at this point. And it delivers the best laughs and the best moments of any animated film ever. It's just such a brilliantly funny movie. The songs in here are top-notch. The songs are done by Mark Shaman, who's done great scores over the years. The Truman Show, The Addams Family, just a ton of great scores. A lot of the scores for Rob Reiner's movies. He wrote a lot of the songs on NBC Smash, a very underrated show. There is not one bad song on this album. This is one of the greatest soundtracks you will ever hear. I mean, Kyle's Mom's a Bitch, Up There, La Resistance, it's another Sunday morning in our beautiful, quiet, little redneck mountain town. It's not the title, but you get the idea here. But it's just like, for everything that they had to do, they put a lot of effort into this movie. And this is a film that not only worked then, it still holds up after all these years. This is a film that still gets funnier and much more clever and much more smarter as the years gone on. Almost 25 years after this movie come out, this thing is still relevant even by today's standards. And like I said, man, they put their all into this movie. I mean, this is a film that manages to make not just a good South Park movie, but an incredible animated movie that adult audiences can really enjoy. It's a great musical that for people that do not like musicals will definitely get a kick out of. It's an amazing film. It fits the style of South Park so well, and it's definitely one of the best animated movies ever made. If you have not seen South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut by this point, get off your ass and do see it, man, because it is well worth the watch. It is one of the best animated films you will ever see. It's worth it. South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, Spike Lee's latest film, The Summer of Sam.
Hey, I had a real good time tonight.
Busy tomorrow night. I'd really like to see you again.
You danced so great tonight, baby.
Because you're beautiful. New York City, 1977.
Is that Richie? Certainly, guys. You come back to the neighborhood looking like a freak. You're supposed to be okay with that.
A time of endless possibilities.
You want to be my dog?
A naughty girl.
And serial hysteria. Double homicide.
Police received a letter from the 44 caliber killer, calling himself the Son of Sam.
What happened?
I just saw the body.
I am the monster, Beelzebub. In one hot summer, he's a victim 6 and 7. In one neighborhood.
Vinny saw the dead bodies last night.
Saw the bodies?
Between friends and lovers.
The Son of Sam killer, who has been targeting young women, has caused panic-stricken brunettes to dye their hair blonde.
I feel like I'm cheating on you with you.
Anyone is a target.
I think he's after me. I'm gonna be number 8.
You know, I'd lay 5 to 1 to kill us from right here.
And everyone is a suspect.
Yeah, this is kind of where Spike Lee started to enter his little bit of a lull. There was a couple of years where he made a couple of films that were not that great and were definitely below what he usually would make at this point. I mean, it was like this from right after Malcolm X. This is still kind of in the midst of where he'd have these mixed bag movies, and then he'd had a couple films that weren't as good as some of his early works. So this is definitely one of those films. Summer of Sam. You basically have the story about, this takes place in 1977 New York, around David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, serial murders and their effect on a group of fictional residents of an Italian-American neighborhood in the Bronx in the late 1970s. The killer, David Berkowitz, his murders and the investigation are shown in the film, but the focus is on these two young men from the neighborhood. Vinny, played by John Leguizamo, whose marriage is faltering due to his cheating, and his brother Richie, played by... Actually, his childhood friend Richie, played by Adrian Brody, who's embraced punk fashion and music. The murder investigation and other contemporary events such as the New York City blackout of 1977 and the New York Yankees' world-winning season provide a backdrop to the stories of Vinny, Richie, their family, and their friends. It's a movie that looks stylish as hell, but should have been Spike Lee's Scorsese-style epic. But it's a highly controversial film, and it's definitely showing that. And the overall finished product is more mad than marvelous. There's definitely some good moments in here, and the performances, I think, by John Leguizamo and Adrian Brody keep it together enough, and they're very well done. But the movie as a whole just doesn't come together as well as I think they wanted it to be. Like I said, Lee was trying so hard to mimic a Scorsese vibe, but he did it with Clockers a couple years ago. But Clockers was at least more clever about it, at least had more of an edge to it. This one definitely has a good angle to it, has some really nice visuals and good performances, but the script is very cluttered. And that trailer, I couldn't show you the whole thing, but man, it sounds like they're trying to sell you this coming-of-age comedy, and more than it is a true-life story about one of the most notorious serial murders in history. And it runs way too long. This is a film that runs for about almost 2.5 hours long, and you got to have something that's going to be something at least more clever and a lot more engaging. And I'm sorry, it's way too hard to be taken seriously if you have a scene where you have a dog that talks and voiced by John Turturro, and it just doesn't work. It's trying way too hard to be serious, but comes out hilarious in the end. It's a major disappointing outing for Lee. It's certainly not one of his worst films by a long shot, but man, it's definitely down at the bottom of the barrel for him. You expect so much more from him, but this wasn't it. This was a film that probably had higher ambitions to it, but just not the right execution in the end. So, not much more to say about that one. That is The Summer of Sam.
From Universal Pictures comes a story
It's sort of sexual.
about the most important time
She said she loves me.
wow, of our lives.
There is a gorgeous woman on my bed. You're not going to do anything about that? What am I going to do? Broadcast her over the internet?
Oh, God. American Pie.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
So American Pie is basically the story of 5 guys who go to this fictional high school, and they make a pact to lose their virginity before their high school graduation. So, in a way, this is kind of a return to form for the teen sex comedy, because, of course, it was very prevalent in the 80s, and then there was kind of a dry spell for much of the 90s. There was very few teen sex comedies out there that actually did prove to be successful, but this is the one that really broke the mold and eventually led into the next decade, where the R-rated comedy, especially the R-rated summer comedy, became the common theme. Every year you'd have a big blockbuster R-rated comedy, and that would later pave the way for people like Judd Apatow to get into the game, make his name known, among other things as well. And of course, this movie led to a number of young stars in this movie: Jason Biggs, Chris Klein, Allison Hannigan, Natasha Lyonne, Thomas Ian Nichols, Tara Reid, Mina Suvari, Eddie K. Thomas, Sean William Scott, Shanna Elizabeth. Even seasoned veterans from SCTV, Eugene Levy and Jennifer Coolidge, came out of this film and became more prevalent names, even though they've been working in, SCTV and also mostly the Christopher Guest movies for a number of years. But this was the film that kind of broke them into the mainstream, and eventually they went on to have successful careers. I mean, Eugene Levy's an Emmy Award-winning actor now for his work on Schitt's Creek, and Jennifer Coolidge has been an Emmy-winning actress as well, and it's been in a number of shows as well, such as The White Lotus most recently, and stuff like Two Broke Girls, and also the Legally Blonde movies, just to name a couple of things. And the title of the film is a reference to a scene in the film where Jason Biggs' character is literally caught masturbating with a pie after being told that third base feels like warm apple pie. And after that, he asks McDonald's or homemade. That's actually one of my favorite responses to a question like that. Like, I love how the Chris Klein's character basically tells Jason Biggs' character what sex is like, and it's just like warm apple pie, and then Jason Biggs just goes, McDonald's or homemade. That's one of those lines that doesn't really garner a whole lot of laughs, but it's one that I kind of chuckle at every time that happens. But he says that the writer, this Adam Hurst, also says the title also refers to the quest of losing one's virginity in high school, which is as American as apple pie. And the premise is not that clever. It's something that we've seen done over and over again, but like I said, this is the first time we've seen it work successfully since the 1980s. I mean, this is a film that really probably could not be made today because of how, how people can get so easily offended and how PC the world is getting, unfortunately. But, they've tried to continue this in many different ways. They directed DVD spin-offs after the original series had ended. Some have been okay, others not so much. And even the original series of films, like the original American Pie trilogy, I think works fine on its own. And then they did American Reunion, and by 2012, only 13 years after this came out, it felt like they were really stretching to just bring this back and try to recapture that spirit of the older days. Like, it just didn't work as well as it did. I was kind of disappointed with American Reunion, honestly, when I saw it on the big screen. I was like, okay, this is the first time I'm seeing these guys in almost 10 years. Let's see if they can capture that magic again, and not so much. I mean, this was a perfect time capsule for the late 90s. I think this is something that just works on so many levels. You can look at it back nowadays and see, like, okay, this is what it used to be like back in the day. This is what it usually would take for something like this to actually get a good laugh and actually work off some really funny stuff in here. There's a lot of really funny stuff in this movie, and everybody in this movie works their parts very well. I really liked a lot of the cast in this film. There's no person in here that I really hate, quite honestly, but it's very funny, it's very creative, it's very much a raunchy comedy, and a good raunchy comedy. It isn't a film it's a film that clearly knows what it's trying to do, and it knows how to do it well. Like, this is directed by Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz, who later become famed directors in their own rights. The two of them would make such films as Down to Earth, About a Boy, In Good Company, and then they kind of split apart again. And that's kind of where their careers kind of took a nosedive, because Paul Weitz wants to do stuff like Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, Little Fockers, some movies that were not that great per se. And Chris Weitz, he went on to become a writer mostly for stuff for Disney. Like, he did write some decent stuff: Cinderella, Rogue One, I was gonna say The Creator, but I haven't seen The Creator yet, so I can't really say if that's good or not. But he also did infamous stuff like Pinocchio, and he was also one of the director of the Twilight Saga: New Moon. So, pretty much after In Good Company, their careers really took a nosedive overall. But once in a while, they still make some decent stuff. Chris Weitz has actually made a couple of films Paul Weitz actually has made a couple of films I've liked: The Mission with Tina Fey and Paul Rudd, and then recently Kevin Hart's Fatherhood, which I thought was really good. But this was kind of in the beginning of their early careers, where they were writing a comedy that was not only very funny and very raunchy and very much a mass appeal film, but it knew how to take chances and also tell a good story Well, as it also throw in a little bit of a dramatic element to it. Not a whole lot per se, because most of this is your typical teen sex comedy, but it's a smartly written teen sex comedy, and it helps that you have a director like Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz, as well as this writer here, Adam Hertz, who knew exactly how to make the story work without feeling like another cliched-riddled comedy. It felt like its own unique thing, and like I said, it helped to open the door for what the rest of the 2000s would open up in terms of these R-rated summer comedies becoming big hits. I mean, nobody really expected this to become the massive hit that it did, and all these people involved here have gone on to bigger and better things. I've mentioned a couple of them already, but Allison Hannigan, of course, was on How I Met Your Mother. Jason Biggs has had a couple of decent shows in his career. Sean William Scott had a good run for a number of years. Eddie K. Thomas is a prolific actor. Natasha Lyonne had that little bit of a lull after 2005, but she's really been coming into her own recently with some shows like most recently Poker Face, and then the other show Russian Doll, which is absolutely brilliant stuff. Orange is the New Black, of course, is another one. So these people have gone on to bigger and better things, and it started with this film here, and it's still a really funny movie. I was really amazed at how much this held up after almost 25 years. It's still really funny to me. It's a film that I can still go back to after all these years and still get a lot of good laughs out of it. It's a film that probably could not be made today, per se, but I think we are starting to see a little bit of an attempt to try to make that come back. No Hard Feelings, I think, was the first example of trying to bring this genre back, and I thought that worked very well, so maybe there is some future. Maybe there is a future for films like this again, but we'll wait to see what happens there. But in the meantime, I really liked American Pie. It's a film that still holds up to me after all these years. Can't recommend it enough. American Pie, really good film. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, and that is Arlington Road.
Perfect friend, husband, father of three, the perfect neighbor,
Such a good man.
the perfect disguise.
So you basically have the story of this widowed George Washington University professor who suspects his new neighbors are involved in terrorism and become obsessed with foiling their terrorist plot. The film was heavily inspired by the growing concerns of the 90s regarding the White Ring militia movement, the Ruby Ridge incident, the Waco siege, the Oklahoma City bombing, and even as in this year we have the Columbine shootings. Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins, Joan Cusack, and Hope Davis are among the cast in here. Mark Pellington directed this. He'd later go on to direct the Mothman Prophecies and also U2 3D. But probably the most notable name from this was Aaron Kruger. Now, Aaron Kruger is a name that you're very much familiar with, and you've definitely probably seen his work before, but he wrote the script and actually was given the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Nicol Fellowship in 1996, and actually they sold this movie for $6 million. So this was a pretty big deal for a relatively first-time writer in Aaron Kruger. He'd later go on to find success with he'd be put onto more, not really success, but he put onto more bigger blockbuster films, or films that had higher ambitions to it, like Scream 3, he was the writer for that. He wrote Reindeer Games, he wrote The Ring, he also wrote the sequel, The Ring 2, he wrote The Skeleton Key, The Brothers Grimm, the Transformers movies, Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, as well as Age of Extinction, Ghost in the Shell, Dumbo. He had probably easily his biggest success with Top Gun Maverick recently. He was one of the writers on that film, and he's also writing another film with that same director, Joseph Kosinski. But he was a pretty big deal for a number of years, and this film was seen as kind of it was a decent hit critic-wise. It did okay with critics, but wasn't really a big financial hit per se. It made its money back. It made over $41 million on a budget of $31 million, but there was probably some higher ambitions to it, considering what they had spent on it and what the talent on screen and off screen. But as far as the film itself goes, I think it has some good ideas to it, just not the right execution. This feels like something that is like, it should be presented more as a serious film, but at times it feels like one of those screwball comedies. I could easily see this becoming a screwball comedy if you put somebody like a Seth Rogen, or even at this time period, somebody like who's a big comedy star back then, Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. Like there's never a point in this film where it feels like it should be going as seriously as they were planning it out to be. That trailer makes it out to be, but No, it never really feels like that, and it ends up being kind of ridiculous in the end. I think what does carry it through are the performances overall. Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins, Joan Cusack, Hope Davis. I think they do a pretty good job in here, carrying as much as they can with the film. It doesn't lead to anything that's considered a classic by any means, but it's perfectly fine for what it is. But you feel like it could have been a whole lot better with everything that had been setting up up to this point before the film actually begins. But as it stands, it's just kind of like it's okay, like it just comes by, you watch it once, you feel like you got what you wanted, but you have no real intentions of ever watching it again. That's how I really feel about this particular film, so. That's Arlington Road.
Where the rainbow ends, those two girls, who were they?
What in the hell are you talking about?
I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. You've been way out of your depth.
If you only knew.
Eyes Wide Shut, rated R. Starts Friday, July 16th at a theater near you.
I have seen one or two things in my life, but never anything like this.
What in the hell are you talking about?
I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. You've been way out of your depth.
If you only knew.
Eyes Wide Shut, rated R. Starts Friday, July 16th at a theater near you.
I mean, honestly, I pretty much have said everything I need to say about this movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I just talked about it on the Reviewing Network Talks About it. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it in the corner. But, there's really not much more I can add to this film that hasn't already been said already. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the visual atmosphere of it. I like the performances of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman a lot. I like the questions that the movie asks of. It's a long movie, and it never really feels bored. You never feel boring. You never really feel like you're wasting your time with it. You get so invested in what's going on in the film itself, but like I said, I don't really have much more to say about this one. Not because I haven't seen the film. I've seen this one multiple times, but mostly because I pretty much delved into everything that I've already had to say about this film. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And like I said, if you want to see what I had to say about it, I'll put a link to the previous video I did in the corner here. But like I said, not much more to say about this one, so we can be really quick on that one. Eyes Wide Shut. One of my favorite films of all time. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Lake Placid.
I heard a man was bit in half.
It's a crocodile.
50 feet.
They came here to study it. Some kind of mutant.
Nobody goes near the water.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going back in the water. They came here to save it.
Set a trap on the beach.
Come and get it!
The question is, who will save them?
Tell it.
Lake Placid.
He didn't eat me. Because he just ate a cow, stupid.
Rated R.
I mean, judging by that trailer, you would have thought this movie would have been not the big success that it would eventually become because of kind of misleading on where they were trying to sell the film at, but not so much. The film actually did pretty well. We'll get into that in just a second here, but the story here, you have, a giant crocodile that terrorizes this fictional town in Black Lake, Maine, and as a dysfunctional group of police and scientists attempting to capture or kill this creature, and you have a cast that includes Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Brendan Gleeson, Oliver Platt, Betty White, Meredith Salinger, Mariska Hargitay. It's directed by Steve Miner, who's done a couple of Friday the 13th films. Actually, he did the first two Friday the 13th movies. Kind of a nice return to form for him. He also did a Halloween H2O just before this came out, so this was kind of a little bit of a brief reprisal of his career, because this film did really well. Like, it was a film that was not expected to make a ton of money, and like I said, it had some kind of mishandled marketing overall, but the film went on to become one of the big surprise hits of the year, and it's a pretty fun movie. It's a comedy horror film, and I think that's one of the big things that the trailer failed to sell the movie on. It just sort of is kind of a predictable movie, kind of like it's trying to be the next Jaws and all that, but what helps is that it has a smartly written script by David E. Kelly, of course the man who gave us Ally McBeal, and has written for L.A. Law and The Practice, created The Practice as well. So there's a lot going for this movie, and the film is just a ton of fun. Betty White is fantastic in this movie. Like, she's playing it straight up, and she knows exactly what kind of a movie she's in, and it's just a fun movie, man. The creature effects look pretty cool. It's Stan Winston, for God's sakes. I mean, that guy can do anything, almost anything, and make it work. I mean, it's just a fun movie, man. And then after that, they made like 5 made-for-TV direct-to-video sequels that were not that great, that pretty much what everyone thought this first film was going to be like. But no, it has the smart script. It has a really cool-looking creature, has some pretty good visual effects, a really good cast to make it work, a director who can make this type of material work, considering that he's worked on other horror franchises like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And it's just a really fun movie, man. You can sit back, relax, go into the theater and watch it, eating popcorn and having a drink and all that. And it's just like, it's the perfect popcorn summer movie. It's a good fun time, good guilty pleasure movie, fantastic film. Lake Placid, I can't recommend it enough. So, on that note, on to the next movie, and that is Taye Diggs in The Wood.
I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was in days when I wish I was a kid again. Back in the days
Play this game for life.
I'm glad you got some guys for friends.
Yeah, I like that. Back it. Hey, back it. Hey,
You also have Omar Epps and Richard T. Jones in there, but this is a story that you kind of have seen before in other films. You have a story where you have the wedding day of a writer's friend, and things aren't looking good when the groom goes missing before the ceremony, and during his and his other male friends' effort to retrieve him, the writer named Mike can't help but tell the story of his youth with his friends, and ever since he met them on his first day at a new school, they've shared the common experience of growing up and life's discoveries. The director of this is Rick Famuyiwa. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but he's directed other films such as Brown Sugar. He did Dope, one of my favorite movies from 2015. In fact, my favorite film from 2015. And more recently, he's directed films like episodes of The Mandalorian, and also wrote Talk to Me with Don Cheadle and Taraji P. Henson. So he's got a really good resume to his name. And this is a pretty decent film, too. I wouldn't recommend it as one of the higher quality movies of this type, but I've seen other movies that have been done much better. But I think this is a very good, well-made film, and I think it works mostly because of the talent that they have on board here. I mean, Omar Epps is very good here, so is Richard T. Jones and Taye Diggs. Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan would later appear again later in the year in The Best Man. Lisa Ray McCoy, who's been a very underrated actress in my opinion. I've seen her in a lot of stuff that she's actually been really good in. Tamala Jones. Just a really solid film. It doesn't really do anything new or engaging compared to something like what Spike Lee would do, or something like the Friday movies did. But it's fine for what it is. It definitely delivers on everything it promises. It doesn't really have to give you too much to really get into the feel and enjoyment of the film. It gives you just enough, and you just feel very good coming out of it. I think it's a very solid film. It's actually been a while since I've actually seen it. I might want to check this one out again at some point, but it's actually a pretty fun film. If you like films like Friday, if you like some of these movies like Dope as well, this director's film, Roll Bounce is another one I could think of. Definitely check this one out, because I think you might actually be pleasantly surprised at how good it actually is. So, yeah, that's The Woods, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Muppets from Space.
Welcome to a house where the normal routine...
Good morning, everyone. The raspberry flapovers will be out in a moment.
...is anything but...
The kitchen is closed.
The Muppets are back. They all had their place in the world. Except for Gonzo.
I've always wondered where I came from, who I am.
Hey, Gonzo, don't you think you ought to take a little break? You're starting to freak out the neighbors.
Now, he's about to find out he's not alone.
You look terrible. No. I'm just fine. People of Earth, do not be alarmed.
Get ready for alien contact.
So come here. My Captain Alphabet is sending me a message. It said, are you there?
Are you sure it didn't say, are you nuts?
Close encounters. And other shocking moments.
I should go change it up. The mothership is calling me home.
The mood is tense. My hair looks great.
Let's go get Gonzo.
Rescue me and take me in your...
This guy's a freak show.
I'm gonna hell.
Columbia Pictures and Jim Henson Pictures
Now, who wouldn't put too much gunpowder in the cannon?
take you where no Muppet has gone before.
This is Miss Piggy with the UFO Alien exclusive. What? Hello, this is my story.
There he is.
nostrils. How do you smell?
Awful. Trust me, I'm his roommate.
So this is the second film that Sony Pictures had done with Jim Henson Pictures, the first one being the infamous Buddy. But this was supposed to be the movie that was supposed to put them in the forefront, like get them out there as a serious contender in the major in like a studio, like to really because they got this, and also Elmo and Gratchland would come out the following year, and this one was actually not as well received as you would expect, but we'll get into that in just a second here. But the story here you see is that after Gonzo receives messages from his breakfast cereal, he determines that he's an alien, and he's trying to contact his alien brethren, but is captured by a secret government agency determined to prove the existence of extraterrestrial life, and it's up to Kermit and the gang to rescue Gonzo and help reunite him with his long-lost family. You have the actors of Jeffrey Tambor, Pat Hingle, Rob Schneider, Andy McDowell, Ray Liotta, F. Murray Abraham, David Arquette, Josh Charles, Kathy Griffin, Hulk Hogan, who was going by Hollywood Hogan at the time. And right from the start, you could pretty much tell this movie was not going to be as successful, and it was kind of a downright mess because, according to Brian Henson, the film was planned by the Henson Company to be released in February of 2000, but Columbia Pictures wanted this to be one of the big summer movies, so they basically had to rush production on this. And on top of that, because of that, there was less advertising for the film, and you have it sandwiched between competition like Tarzan and then Inspector Gadget, as well as a ton of other big summer movies. I mean, for God's sakes, this was one of the greatest summers ever, and they thought that they were going to really try to compete with this. And if you're going to compete with that, you should have done it a little bit beforehand, way beforehand on that front. But this is also the first Muppet film to not be a traditional musical film with original music. Instead of opting for a soundtrack, a primary consisting of classic soul and funk tracks. Like early drafts of the film had original music, but including a song, Eye to the Sky, which was written and recorded by Ween, which was not included on the soundtrack. In fact, I don't even know if that's actually available, but the song was supposed to be intended to be sung by Gonzo. There was another song that was supposed to be I'm Gonna Go Back There Someday from the film that was originally in the Muppet movie. The song was also dropped, and they basically just used these classic songs on there, and I like a good classic soul and funk track, but I go to the Muppet movies to hear some original Muppet music, and this one just didn't really have it. And third, you could just tell that nobody involved with the Muppets wanted to be a part of this. I mean, you look at the trailer again, you see that total lack of caring from the people working behind the scenes. In fact, Frank Oz himself said it didn't turn out the way they were hoping for. They were going as far as describing it as not up to what it should have been, or nor the movie that it wanted to be. And I mean, you look at Elmo and Grouchland that came out the same year, and it looked like they took more care into that movie than it did with this film. And even that one was not that great. We'll eventually get to that one once we get to that one. But, so with all the production chutzpah, Muppets from Space seemed to be doomed to fail on arrival. And, you know, they bring in an outside director for the first time since the Muppet movie, Tim Hill, who, of course, would later go on to direct stuff like Alvin and the Chipmunks, Max Keeble's Big Move, Garfield 2, Hop. Of course, he's the man who gave us the SpongeBob movies, which, I mean, there was at least something in there, at least. And you know, the first Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, I'll give it credit that it's the most tolerable of those movies. But those films are not that great either. But there was just no way that this thing was going to live up to the expectations that we'd expect from a Muppet film. And sure enough, it did turn out to be a disappointment. The story really doesn't work. We're really expected to believe that Gonzo was an alien this whole time. Like, I understand the reason why most of the Muppet movies work is because they're self-aware of the story. It's not supposed to make any sense. But this time around, you can't really ignore it. It's a bad story that should have had some more thought to put into it before they filmed it. And because second thing is that the songs aren't original. I mean, the music here really is lackluster. It's okay to hear the Muppets sing a popular song in 30-second ads, but in a movie like this, I mean, what's the point? Like, the live actors this time don't really seem to fit in with the Muppets. It's a shame because Jeffrey Tambor can be very funny in nearly everything he's been in, but he feels like he's just wasted here. He's not really given a whole lot to do. This is probably the only Muppet movie where you could tell they were just forcing the cameos in here for no real reason whatsoever. Like, any kid out there in 1999 is going to really know who Ray Liotta or Josh Charles are. Not so much. I mean, at least in my opinion. And fourth, and this is probably the biggest overall fault of the film, is that it's just not funny. The jokes are just not funny. We go to these Muppet movies to see these beloved characters make us laugh our asses off with clearly written and sometimes very silly jokes, but we don't get any of that this time around. We got the same problem that we see in most kids' movies nowadays, where they're just forcing us to laugh at something, and some of the worst possible jokes they can give to these characters. And you could just tell that there was just something wasn't right in Denmark when they were making this movie. But yeah, Muppets from Space really is a big mess of a film. You can honestly tell there was a lot of production problems. You could tell it was rushed. Everything about it just failed miserably, and it's a shame because you know these guys can do so much better than this. And if they had gone with their original plan, this thing probably could have been a whole lot better, but as it is, it was just a major misfire, and it would take us 12 years to finally get a really good Muppets film again, with the Muppets involved. And we'll eventually get to that when we get to the 2011 film, but as far as Muppets from Space goes, it's the one that I watched the least. I watch all the other Muppet movies so many times. This one, not so much. So that's Muppets from Space, but let's go ahead and get to probably one of the most influential movies of the of 1999, and would later go into the decade of the 2000s, and that is, of course, The Blair Witch Project. So basically there you have the story about these three student filmmakers who go into the Black Hills near Burkittsville, Maryland in 1994 to film a documentary about the local myth known as the Blair Witch. The three disappear, their equipment and footage are discovered a year later, and at the time the perfectly found footage is the movie the viewer sees. And found footage was still seen as this is actually something that's happened, but this isn't the first time the Blair Witch Project was a film that actually used this. There's been other films before this, mostly on television. UPN had a alien documentary that was very successful for them, and that was one of the first ones they did. But this was the one that, when it came out, it had a massive marketing campaign, and it completely made you believe that this indeed happened in real life, and that this is completely true, 100%. Nowadays, we know that that's not the case, especially when you consider that the actors who were involved here, Heather Donahue, Michael Williams, and Joshua Leonard, went on to be interviewed several times on many TV shows and many movies, such as Entertainment Tonight, and also on The Tonight Show and all that. And you know what? It didn't really matter when it was all said and done, because the film really did pan out into something big. Like, after its Sundance run, Artisan Entertainment, then precursor to Lionsgate, they basically bought the film for $1.1 million, and almost immediately the film took off big time, making it one of the most successful independent films of all time. Of course, launching a media franchise with sequels that have not been as successful as this one, but we'll eventually delve into that one as we move along here. And of course, it helped to revive the found footage technique, which would later be used with the Paranormal Activity movies and Cloverfield as well. But so with all those things going against the film, the fact that this film was not really a true story and all that, I mean, the marketing push for this was absolutely incredible. I mean, they really took advantage of the marketing campaign, and everybody else did a pretty good job of parodying this. Like, of course, the most notable parody is the one that Cartoon Network did with the Scooby-Doo gang, entitled The Scooby-Doo Project.
Let's split up. They're always saying it. Well, I, for one, am sick of splitting up. It never helps, and I'm always getting stuck with Velma. Why are Fred and Daphne always heading off together anyway? I'm so hungry.
Which is amazing in its own right. I can't really show you anything else from that, but you can definitely find it on YouTube, so definitely look for that on there. But my personal favorite is the Target Black Friday ad they did just a couple weeks later.
It's Target's 2-day sale. What if I oversleep? What if I forget my checkbook? Target has Garth Brooks' latest releases, The Magic of Christmas, and Garth Brooks in the Life of Chris Gaines. I love Garth. I love Chris. I don't know who I love more.
Target's 2-day sale starts Friday. Come in early for incredible savings and surprises.
Need a map?
Oh, come on! I gotta get to Target.
I don't know, to me, like, after the Scooby-Doo Project, I mean, that's probably the second best parody they've ever done of of the Blair Witch Project, at least in my personal opinion. I thought that was pretty funny, and that's one that was etched in my memory for a long time. That was back in November of '99 when I first saw that, and that's been, every time I think of the Blair Witch Project, for some reason I think of two other things, the Scooby-Doo Project and also the Target ad. But behind the marketing campaign, was the movie itself worth it in the end? Well, it all depends on how you feel about it. Like, can you buy into the idea that this is clearly a movie? This is not something that was intended to be seen as serious, even though the marketing campaign did a pretty good job of doing that. Even the years after this movie's come out and everyone's kind of already made fun of it for not being real and all that, you could still look at this movie and see that there is at least effort being put into it. There's a good idea here, and the film overall, I think, does its job okay. It definitely has those moments that's going to pee people off, especially the ending. I mean, the last scene alone is kind of seen as kind of seen as a cop-out, really, because it really just kind of ends, and that's pretty much it. But that's kind of the point of the movie. Like, I know other movies like this try to do something similar to this, like most notably The Devil Inside, which was that really terrible movie that came out in 2012, where they tried to do the exact same thing, but the difference between the Devil Inside and the Blair Witch Project is that the Blair Witch Project was actually keeping you invested in what's going on. The Devil Inside just stopped. Like, it just really had nothing going on for it, and then just when you thought something interesting was going to happen, the film just ends and says, go to this website, which, by the way, doesn't even exist anymore, to find out more. And it's just like you could still go to the Blair Witch websites nowadays and still see stuff for this film that are on there, but yeah, like I said, it really depends on whether or not you could accept this as a fictional film, and I think it does its job about well enough. It doesn't work as a movie all the way through, but there are some legitimately good moments and like some good tension-filled moments. And yeah, the shaky cam stuff can get a little annoying at times, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing you can do with it, honestly. I mean, I've seen much worse with the shaky cam and the found footage element. That's actually the Blair Witch calling me right now. How dare you make fun of my movie? No, I'm just kidding. I had a phone call there. I was already deep in my conversation here, and I didn't really want to start over again, so I just kept it going there. But where did I actually leave off anyway? But like I said, as far as this movie goes, like I said, it's just kind of mediocre. Not even mediocre, it's just okay. I think it's just more than enough to acknowledge it as a film that was actually kind of decent, but it's one I probably never would watch again. Like, I'd rather watch Paranormal Activity again. I'd rather watch Cloverfield again. I think those films took this concept and did it much better, at least early on, until they kind of ruined it in their own ways. But the Blair Witch Project, I think it's fine for what it is. I definitely think it got overkill once the sequels came out, especially the second film, which we'll eventually get to when we get to 2000. But yeah, I have no nice things to say about that one. But then again, nobody else really does, honestly. But yeah, like I said, for what it is, it's perfectly fine. Like, I think it still holds up after all these years. It's one that I'd say that I'm glad I saw it once, but I really have no desire to ever watch it again, honestly. Like, once is good enough, but it's one that I probably would never ever watch again, honestly. So yeah, that's the Blair Witch Project for you.
Where reality is an illusion. Where imagination turns to fear. There is no escape.
Don't you love it here?
From the haunting. Liam Neeson. Catherine Zeta-Jones. From the director of Twister and Speed. The Haunting, rated PG-13.
This is, of course, based off of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, which has been previously adapted into a film by Robert Wise in 1963. This is the second time that story's been adapted into a film, Toy Boat. And you follow a group of people who are gathering at this estate in western Massachusetts for a volunteer study on insomnia, only to find themselves plagued by paranormal events caused by the connection to the home's grim history. And you see the names there: Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson, Lily Taylor, among the names involved in here. And this is John DeBont, who also gave us Twister and Speed. And let's just not beat around the bush on this film. This is a terrible movie. This is a horrible movie. Even if it wasn't connected to the original The Haunting, this is just a bad film altogether. And yet it really couldn't have been that way. Like, this originally began as a collaboration between Steven Spielberg and Stephen King. I mean, just imagine what that could have been like if we actually had it that way. They actually worked on a new adaptation of this, largely inspired by the Robert Wise version, but then, after creative differences, they took the project away, and King retooled that script into Rose Red, which became a very successful miniseries over at ABC. And then Spielberg, meanwhile, commissioned a new screenplay written by David Self, and David Self is a name that has written such films as he wrote Road to Perdition, which is a great film, but he also wrote The Wolfman, the Benicio del Toro Wolfman, which, yeah, that's not off to a good start here, but, I mean, the biggest problem with this movie is just that, I mean, just, did you see the trailers for it? I mean, this is literally the thing they tried to sell the movie on.
These are its eyes. Won't you come in?
Yeah. They thought that was going to be the selling point for this movie. And shockingly enough, that's the best special effect this thing has, because, my God, the overabundance of CG in this movie is just, it's unbelievable how bad it is. Like, it's really, really bad, and it shockingly gets worse than what I just showed you right there. This thing cost $80 million to make, and in 1999, to have CG effects look that terrible, that's a huge problem. But if that was the biggest problem with the film, then this film probably wouldn't be that bad, but no. They had to dumb down this movie to a level that is unbelievably terrible, that only somebody like the Nostalgia Critic could put it together in a rant so easily. But since I don't have time to get that, here's my little YouTube poop pretty much summing up the thoughts on The Haunting.
Oh, God, there are so many complex issues here. Moron here. All right, and then we're going to see Eleanor literally defeat him with the power of love. Oh, it's so inspired. It's so ingenious. Hey, I don't care if it was laughed off at the Disney afternoon. I'm the adult. I write adult things. That's stupid. Psychological issues. Oh, yes! I'm the adult! I write the adult things! You're dumb! You're dumb! This is the real stuff! This is the real scary stuff! Stop! Rabbit White! He's a head! If you took poo and added even more poo, that'd be rubber!
Shockingly, that probably is what happened when they put this movie together, because you cannot be this stupid to try to dumb this story down as much as it does here. Like, the whole purpose of The Haunting is, it's supposed to be not like this. It's supposed to be a story where you're not supposed to be told everything that's going on. You're supposed to have these secret elements to it. Like, you're not supposed to know who's holding Eleanor's hand. That was one of the big things in the original film. The ending of that film has much more of a meaning behind it. But no, in this film, it's about family. It's about, like, saving these kids that are already dead, by the way. And, like, you know, there's this woman just goes crazy and basically sacrifices herself for no reason whatsoever, because, like I said, these kids are already dead, and it's like you're going after this horribly rendered CG creation. And like I know I'm not going into as much of a rant as somebody like the Nostalgia Critic probably would have done. Go watch his review. That's done much better. But man, this is not good. Not a good film whatsoever. It's an abysmal mess of a film, which thankfully finally got the proper treatment that it is almost 20 years later with Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Hill House miniseries, which is a massive, massive achievement. It's not only a good retelling of the original Haunting story, but it's a damn good miniseries. I mean, it's Mike Flanagan, man. The dude is one of the great horror creators we have right now working in film. So, I mean, you can't really. You need to go check that out. You need to go see The Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting of Hill. Is it The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Hill Manor? No, it is The Haunting of Hill House. For some reason, I thought it was The Haunting of Hill Manor, but no. Go watch that. It's far superior. It's Mike Flanagan. That pretty much needs to be the only selling point for that particular film. But it says a lot when The House on Haunted Hill, which has nothing to do with this, was a far better horror movie than what this was trying to be. And that one wasn't even trying to adapt the original Haunting in any way, shape, or form. This is just bad. This is a really terrible movie, and just shows how much of a hack John DeBont is as a director. I mean, that pretty much sums it up right there. Like, guy's not made a lot of great stuff. Yeah, he made Speed, and he made Speed 2, a great guilty pleasure, but Twister, you know, this, actually, come to think of it, he's not done a whole lot as a director, and last thing he directed was The Cradle of Life, the Tomb Raider sequel, which was not great, but at the same time, yeah, it wasn't anything up to the levels of Speed, but, bottom line is, avoid The Haunting at all costs, avoid it like the plague. Let's just, why don't we move on? Why don't we move on to a film that's bad, but I'd rather watch this than The Haunting any day of the week. That is Matthew Broderick in Disney's Inspector Gadget.
After years of scientific research, the United States government is about to turn one ordinary human being into the weapon of the future.
I need more hose! 60-watt light bulb. Careful.
He's going into VTech.
We're losing him. Clear!
Now, the world will finally meet the ultimate crime-fighting tool. Inspector Gadget. They will train him.
Concentrate. Your mind and your body will become one. Okay.
They will equip him.
You bought me a car?
Just say, Go-Go Gadgetmobile.
Go-Go Gadgetmobile?
They will make him
I have to hit a couple of overrides.
a better man.
Thanks.
Sure.
Walt Disney Pictures presents
That's never happened to me before.
Inspector Gadget.
I don't know what you're up to, Claw, but you'll never get away with it.
Oh, how cliche, Inspector.
I think somebody's been watching too many Saturday morning cartoons.
I mean, don't look at me. I'm not the one that made this movie. And by the way, Rupert Everett, why am I seeing you right now? You're supposed to be in cloak. Like, the only time we're ever supposed to see Dr. Claw is with his claw hand, and that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this movie is. This is loosely based off of the 1980s TV series in which a man played by Don Adams is gifted with these abilities after he gets... is basically here you have the origin story of Inspector Gadget played by Matthew Broderick, which isn't really a bad choice for this, as he attempts to foil an evil plot concocted by the series villain Dr. Claw, and basically he ends up getting into an accident, and he basically gets the $6 Million Man treatment where he's given all these gadgets and all that, and it would have been so easy to just make a simple film based off of that, but not this film. Not this film whatsoever. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's not a good adaptation of the source material. And but in its defense, though, like I said, I would rather take this than basically whatever the hell The Haunting was any day of the week. But this film had a lot of problems. You see in that trailer there, you see a lot of stuff that was not in the original film. If you ever saw the original film in theaters, the original film was cut down to 78 minutes long. From an original runtime of nearly 2 hours long. And, you know, they basically cut it down after test screenings, and a lot of that stuff is on the cutting room floor and has never been shown to anybody. And, you know, maybe if you put that stuff in there, then more than likely this probably would have worked a whole lot better. Like I said, Matthew Broderick wasn't a bad choice for Inspector Gadget. I thought he fit the role well enough. But what this film could have really been, I mean, I'm looking at some of the development stuff that they have here. Some of the best people in Hollywood were attached to this at one point. Universal was going to make a film version of this in '93 with Ivan Reitman producing it. And, you know, Ivan Reitman could have made this work. When Inspector Gadget moved to Disney, they were the Farrelly brothers, who were going to write and direct it. They even wanted Martin Scorsese to direct it. And imagine the world we could have lived in if Martin Scorsese would have directed this film. But at the same time, how the hell do you go from Martin Scorsese to the dude that directed Cool as Ice? This is directed by David Kellogg, who did Cool as Ice, but had more success with the Seinfeld and Superman commercials that aired during the Super Bowl in '98. And Steven Spielberg himself was actually considered to be was thinking about being an executive producer, but he was going to work on Saving Private Ryan instead, which worked out for the best for him. Even the casting, all the names I'm seeing here probably could have made this a lot better. Like Cameron Diaz was considered for the role of Dr. Brenda, played by Jolie Fisher in this, but she turned it down for Any Given Sunday, which was probably the right move. Brendan Fraser turned it down on account of working on George of the Jungle. He could have probably made this work. Look at the names. I'm going to read the names here. Like Kevin Kline, Steve Carell, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Mike Myers, Jay Moore, Jerry Seinfeld, Mel Gibson, Dana Carvey, Michael Keaton, Adam Sandler, Robin Williams. All those guys probably could have made this work well. When the Steven Spielberg was even considering people like Chevy Chase and Steve Martin. The Farrelly Brothers' choice was Jim Carrey. All these names here could have made this probably a much more interesting film. In fact, Lindsay Lohan even turned down the role of Penny, who's played here by Michelle Trachtenberg from Harriet the Spy. She turned it down to work on The Parent Trap. They had Eddie Murphy, David Alan Grier, and Chris Tucker considered for The Gadget Mobile, and Tim Curry, James Earl Jones, Willem Dafoe, Jack Nicholson, John Lithgow, Tommy Lee Jones, Dennis Hopper, possible for Dr. Claw. Louis C.K. actually even auditioned for roles of police officer. All the things that could have made this movie really, really cool. And we got this instead. A film that's just gonzo nuts all over the place. But at the same time, it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. And I don't know why it is. I think it's because of the fact that I have this thing, when films like this are filmed in near my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for it. I mean, I like Striking Distance. That's a terrible movie, but I love that film because of the fact that it's Pittsburgh. Like, you see Pittsburgh in '93 in there. Same thing with Groundhog Day, except Groundhog Day is a fantastic movie on its own rights, but I don't know. To me, it's just kind of like, I see this film, and I know it's bad. I know it's not a good movie, but I can't help it. I just have a little bit of a soft spot for it, really. I just feel like it's a film that there's something about it that just makes me realize that there's something about this I kind of like about it. I know it's not a good film. I know it's not a great film. I know it's not even there's not even a whole lot of good laughs there, but it's just kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I just can't really I can't really say why I like it so much, but not even so much. It's just like, I don't see myself hating it as much as everybody else does. But like I said, probably because I have a soft spot for it to be shot in Pittsburgh, and I do like Matthew Broderick in the role of Inspector Gadget. I just wish everything else about this would have been much better. Everything from the casting of Rupert Everett as Dr. Claw. Like, the one thing you should never ever do is show the villain who's notoriously known for just being shown on screen as the Claw. That should have been the first red flag for this film when they said, we can't do that because nobody's going to see who Rupert Everett is. Like, you missed the point altogether. You missed the point altogether by doing this. And, D.L. Hughley as the Gadgetmobile, by the way, is not that great either. I'm sorry. I like D.L. Hughley, but this was just not up to his levels of the talents that he should have. But it's certainly not a great film, but I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for it. That's Inspector Gadget. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film we have here. Probably, surprisingly, the best film to come out this weekend, and nobody went to go see it when it came out. And that is Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Get a boob job. She's too young for a boob job. They do that at birth now. What are you talking about?
Mount Rose, Minnesota.
I believe this pageant is an important experience for every young woman.
In this town,
Our pageant is not a peep show.
nothing is sacred.
Suck it in, or so help me, I'll shove my foot so far. Now.
Drop Dead Gorgeous. Rated PG-13.
So as you can tell from that trailer there, this is basically following the story of a small-town beauty pageant and the fierce, deadly lengths the contestants will take to secure the crown. And you see some big names in there: Kirsten Dunst, Ellen Barkin, Brittany Murphy, Allison Janney, Denise Richards, Kirstie Alley, Amy Adams. Amy Adams, this was actually the first film she starred in. And this is a pretty damn fun movie. I mean, this is a film that not a lot of people have ever heard of. You have Michael Patrick Jan, who is one of the guys who worked on The State. He's done a ton of great material on that show. He's done a lot of stuff for Reno 911 as well. But most notably, the writer of this is Lana Williams, is a name that does not sound too familiar, but she has worked on some stuff before. She was an assistant on the Tracy Ullman Show, which got her a writing assistant job on The Simpsons. She actually helped out with the role of Amber Dempsey in the classic Simpsons episode Lisa the Beauty Queen. She actually provided the voice of that character and also brought in her elements because she used to be in a number of beauty pageants as a child and went on to be America's Junior Miss, winning a $10,000 scholarship. And she kind of took that idea into this world of writing that would come beforehand, writing stuff for The Simpsons, Roseanne, The Drew Carey Show. She also wrote the script for stuff like Sugar and Spice, and also wrote a very underrated zombie film, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which came out in 2015. So she has made a lot of notable stuff that you probably would have never ever guessed that she was involved in. And the movie is just damn funny. I mean, they got a lot of really good talent in this film. Not just the leading actresses. You've got Will Sasso, you see there, Nora Dunn, Adam West, Mo Gaffney is in here, Amanda Detmer, Tom Lennon from Reno 911. I mean, they really stacked in a really strong cast in here. And just the material they're given in here is just so damn funny. Like, this is a film that really came out of nowhere. And even for me, it came out of nowhere. I really did not know too much about it. I know my sister used to watch all the time when we had it on video. And I just remember so many great little one-liners in this film that just, even to this very day, I can still remember them. And they're just very, very funny. But there's just a lot of funny material here. It doesn't go like Heather's route, which probably would have helped this film. But there are some brief little flashes of some dark comedy and some really good satire in terms of the beauty pageant atmosphere and the aspects and all that. And it's just such a brilliantly funny and smart, clever film. I mean, it's really enjoyable. I think it's a film that was one of those films that was way too ahead of its time. And I think has gone on to have more of an appreciation over the years. And in fact, Allison Janney herself has even said that she's been approached more by fans about this film than the Emmy-winning role she had on The West Wing, which she won a couple of Emmys on there. She also won Emmys for Mom. And it really says a lot when this is more, people recognize you more for this than some of your more notable stuff here. I mean, that's a really impressive task there. But I really like this movie. I really do need to get a physical copy of it on DVD at some point because I really do want to watch this movie over again. I really like this movie a lot. I think it's a very underrated little gem. If you can find it out there, definitely check it out because it really is some very, very funny stuff. I highly recommend it. Drop Dead Gorgeous.
They call her the runaway bride. Maggie Carpenter has a habit of running from her problems.
I think I am screwed up.
But reporter Ike Graham is one problem
I'm looking for Maggie Carpenter.
she can't run away from.
This is attractive man.
I like his tight butt.
Grandma?
I do.
Julia Roberts.
What do you think?
Richard Gere. Fine. Runaway Bride.
We're reading the newspaper upside down. That guy is fine.
Rated PG. Starts Friday, July.
I mean, the trailer pretty much tells you what the story is. Julia Roberts is a woman who has left a string of fiancés at the altar, and Richard Gere is a man who's a news reporter who's brought in to write a story about her. And not surprisingly, they're going to end up falling in love. And do you really need me to tell you how this is going to end? Like, this should work solely because of how well the chemistry between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere worked in Pretty Woman, as well as the fact that you have the same director here, but I don't think anybody could have imagined how horribly written this movie was, because my God, this movie is unbelievably bad. It's unbelievable how bad this is. Not just from the story perspective. It's a very cliched little story, but just how there is so little chemistry between Richard Gere and Julia Roberts in this movie. And almost 10 years ago, they had Pretty Woman, and they were great in that film. So what the hell happened? It's amazing how bad this movie ended up becoming. And I don't know. Like, I think I was really shocked at how much I did not like this movie. It was a film that really felt like it was trying too hard to be a new Pretty Woman, but at the same time, Pretty Woman had more to it. There was more of an edge to it, and it actually served more of a purpose to this film. But this, I think the biggest fault of this was probably mostly in the script, because these two writers, Sarah Period and Josanne McGibbon, they've been working in entertainment business for almost 40 years. They've done stuff like The Favor, Three Men and a Little Lady. They wrote the Descendants franchise, which really, that's probably everything you need to know about probably why this didn't work, because these writers are not that great, because they did not make a lot of good movies out of this as during their time. And I'm stunned at how bad this movie was. I really am stunned. Like, I was going into it expecting a similar romantic comedy that we've seen done over and over again, but it's going to work because Richard Gere and Julia Roberts are in it. But no, this is just about as bad as you would think it would be. Like, the trailers make it out to be. Like, you don't like any of these people in this movie, and I think that's maybe why I didn't like it at all, is because you don't like Julia Roberts because she leaves people at the altar. She's like the adult equivalent of Taylor Swift. She just leaves people, and instead of writing songs after every breakup she has, like, she just moves on to another person. It's just like, what person would want to be around this type of person? And Richard Gere, he knows he's going to get his heart broken, and he knows at the end there's going to be that third act breakup, and they're eventually going to get back together. And this is just really, really just a bad film on so many levels. Like, if The Simpsons is making fun of you for doing the same thing, then you clearly have a problem here. I mean, no joke. I'm pretty sure that when The Simpsons made a parody of a romantic comedy similar to this, they were taking from this. Just watch.
Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
I do. 1 groom? 2 grooms? But you can't... Oh, my medication. Oh!
Radical!
Is that your final answer?
I don't understand. That wasn't funny.
Wait a minute. Somebody's not laughing here. It's him.
Hey, don't blame me. This movie is tired and predictable. You know she's gonna wind up marrying Richard Gere.
I thought she'd wind up with that rich snob.
Ably played by Bill Paxton.
It's Bill Pullman, you fool!
Point out your plot holes elsewhere.
I mean, you can't tell me that's not coincidental, but yeah, I'm shocked at how bad this movie was. There are so many good people in this. Gary Marshall doesn't usually make a whole lot of really terrible movies, at least during this time of his career. But man, this was just a major misfire on so many levels. And yet people bought into it. It was still a massive hit at the box office. It made a ton of money. So Paramount was laughing to the bank. So was Touchstone Pictures, basically Disney. But yeah, this was not a good movie. This is one of those movies that's unbelievably bad. It's a film that you expect it not to be great, but you don't expect it to be as horrible as this movie is. This is an abysmal comedy on so many levels. And it's a shame because of the talent on board here. You expect so much more, and this is what the outcome is. Just not good. Not good at all. But so that's Runaway Bride. Now let's get to a bad movie that knows it's bad, and because of that, it's so bad it's good. I'm, of course, talking about Deep Blue Sea.
Tell me, Mr. Franklin, have you ever known anyone with Alzheimer's?
No.
What if you could end all that suffering with a single pill? Give me till Monday morning, 48 hours. I'll give you results that'll skyrocket your stock price.
The most advanced research facility in the world. Wow.
Beneath its glassy surface, a world of gliding monsters.
A team of specialists is working against the clock.
Did someone order the fish?
On an experiment to benefit mankind.
Sharks never show any loss of brain activity as they age.
We're this close to the reactivation of human brain cells.
But before they can save millions of lives...
Tell me I didn't see them. They recognize that gun.
It's impossible. Sharks do not swim backwards. They can't.
They'll have to find a way to save their own.
Just what the hell did you do to those sharks?
Did you feel something?
Jim and I use gene therapies to increase their brain mass.
What is that?
As a side effect, the sharks got smarter.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is. Go! Go!
yeah, this is about as stupid as you can get. This is set in an isolated underwater facility where we follow a team of scientists and their research on mako sharks to help fight Alzheimer's disease. The situation plunges into chaos when multiple genetically engineered sharks go on a rampage and flood the facility. So we're going to use sharks to fight Alzheimer's. If you don't think that's stupid by the time you come into this movie, then you clearly need to check your brain at the door. This is one of those movies that knows it's stupid. It's very stupid. But I love every single minute of it. It's a great, fun, guilty pleasure B-movie that, at times, is very unique in its own way. It's clearly a Jaws knockoff, but it takes advantage on some abilities that it's able to do here. Some of the action, some of the pacing, scenes that you don't see coming a mile away. I mean, do I even need to say Samuel L. Jackson getting completely eaten by the shark? I mean, I don't even need to show you the clip. I mean, you can pretty much figure out what that clip is, and it's about as over-the-top fun as you can get with that type of a film. I mean, this is a movie that knows how stupid it is. It knows how ridiculous it is. This was the Meg before the Meg came out, and it's a blast, man. I love this movie so much. Saffron Burrows, Thomas Jane, Samuel Jackson, Michael Rappaport, LL Cool J, Ada Turturro from The Sopranos. Just a great, fun movie all around. A great, fun, guilty pleasure film. It knows what it is. It knows how stupid it is. It's directed by Rennie Harlan, for God's sakes. He made Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger. Movies that are not the smartest movies at all, but they're fun to watch because of the effort they put into it. I mean, this is a good, fun movie, man. This is just a fun, fun film all around. I have a blast with it every time I see it. I have a good time watching it. I don't think I need to say too much more about it. It's great fun all around. If you haven't seen Deep Blue Sea, God, go check it out. If you love stuff like The Meg and Jaws, like just a good, fun, guilty pleasure shark movie, watch movies like this. Avoid crap like Sharknado, because Sharknado, that's not fun. That's just somebody trying to make guilty pleasure without knowing what a guilty pleasure is, and those movies still do not hold up after all these years. I'm sorry. They just do not. But Deep Blue Sea, this holds up very well. See this one if you haven't seen it already, and you will have a great time with it. So, yeah. So that's Deep Blue Sea for you.